Welcome back to the Mike Huckabee Show for this Thursday. Before I was talking about the fact that there seems to be a difference in the way that the military treats people who openly identify as Christian and those who identify as Muslim. And I spoke about this the other day, and I mentioned that there is a double standard. I said at the time, I know I'm going to probably get in trouble. I'm not speaking in a language that is politically correct. And one of the people who has responded to my comments, Harris Zafar, who was with the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community USA. Their website is muslimsforpeace.org. And I'm very grateful that he's willing to come on and talk with me about it. Harris, it's good to have you here.
I appreciated the opportunity to speak with you. Thank you, Mike.
I was very clear, Harris, that not all Muslims are violent. Not all Muslims are terrorists. I've said that repeatedly. Mm-hmm. But it does occur to me that one of the challenges that I find just as an American and as a Christian is that we're told that the days to watch out for are the holy days.
Mm-hmm.
So part of what I'm asking here is, why is it that so much of the violence that erupts, whether it's in Egypt or whether it's in Yemen, happens in conjunction with a holy day?
So, and this is precisely why we'd reached out to you. Now, in your comments, like you mentioned on Monday, you brought up this point, and it's a valid point about Muslims and the actions we see on some days. And you can certainly comment about certain Muslims who do this. In fact, you'll find partners in us, as you should hopefully know by now, that we regularly and vigorously speak out against violence, chaos, and disorder committed at the hands of those that claim adherence to our religion. But the comments you made on Monday were about the religion of Islam, and it is that which not only do we take exception to, but also that's factually untrue. You know, you mentioned Friday prayers as an example, which in the Arabic language is known as Jummah, as being that day that Muslims will be incited to violence and rock throwing. And, you know, first of all, again, you're right that such things happen. And indeed, there are Muslims acting like complete lunatics and savages. But there's a reason why they are in the vast minority and receive wide condemnation from other Muslims, because that is a violation of what the Quran states to do. In the chapter of the Quran named after that day, Al-Jummah, it clearly instructs Muslims that when it's time for the prayer on Friday, to focus on the remembrance of Allah. And then when the prayer ends, it says to disperse in the land and seek Allah's grace and remember Allah much. Those are the commandments that are given to us. So yes, we see these actions of these Muslims, but what we firmly hold on to is that when we are condemning them widely and openly, condemning what they're doing, condemning their actions, because they're defaming the religion that they claim to be defending, that they are in such a small number, understanding that there are 1.6 billion Muslims in the world, and if this was truly part of our faith, Friday would be a day that worldwide, including in the U.S., people would be afraid of, because we would consider it our commandment to throw rocks and do such a violence. But since it's so isolated, we have to understand that it's not the religion to blame, that it's the people that are the mentally disturbed.
And that is a very fair point on your part that I wanted you to be able to make, because, you know, for those of us who see this violence break out, whether it's an intifada among Palestinians, or whether it's rioting in the streets of Cairo, or whether it's the overtaking of an embassy or consulate in Libya, you know, these are troubling things. And I am delighted. By the way, one of the people that I have most admiration for, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, who's a cardiac doctor in Phoenix, is also very outspoken. He is a devout Muslim, is a friend of mine, and he is another one who has been very clear that this does not represent his faith and what he stands for. And, I think that's important. I think the more that it is said from Muslims, the better it is. But what I'm also concerned about, Harris, is what seems to be a double standard. I don't expect you to have any responsibility for this, and it's not something the Muslims would have any responsibility for. This is an issue for the U.S. military. Nadal Hassam is able to be accommodated in his faith by being allowed to wear a beard, which goes against the military custom, the military rules, actually. He's wearing a uniform. He's being paid a military salary, but that's an accommodation that's being made. Every day on this radio show, we get stories of Christian military members who are told, take bumper strips off their car if they're Christian, take Bibles off their desk because that's offensive. It appears to me that there is a double standard. Do you feel that that's an unfair characterization?
Well, in regards to right now when he's in the military court and his insistence that he is required to have this beard, that's actually not factually true. Muslim men, of course, are certainly encouraged to grow a beard, but it's not an obligation. It's not a requirement. And so, if this is part of the rules of the court, so it's a part of the rules of being part of the military, which, by the way, he, from what I understand, abided by while he was in active duty, where he was clean-shaved,
right?
Then I see no reason why he does not have to do that now. So I don't think that there should be an exception made for him if these are clear rules. And Islam, according to our scripture and the words and the actions of our prophet, staunchly advocates for following the law of the land and not to break law. And so, if that is the rule, then he needs to abide by it. So, and the fact that he did throughout his active military career, that I guess puts into question whether or not there is a double standard. There may be, at least in this case, if he's allowing to have this beard in the court of law. But the fact that he didn't have that and he was required to shave it off the rest of his time would perhaps indicate that that's not happening. But again, and the reason why I appreciate this opportunity to come on your show was that you and I have the common, and Dr. Jasser, who I've spoken with in the past, we also have this common mission of speaking out when there's injustices done. And because in your comments when you had said that that Islam is a religion that promotes the most murderous mayhem on the planet, I think that is exactly the point that I wanted to draw to the most, which is taking the actions of the lunatics, the mentally disturbed fringe, and making them represent the faith. I know you've definitely agreed that there are peaceful Muslims, which is wonderful.
Absolutely.
But then to blame the religion of Islam then implies that the peaceful Muslims are only peaceful because they don't obey the teachings of Islam.
Well, and I would not want to leave the impression that I thought that the religion was inherently violent, because I don't believe that. I really don't. If I did, I wouldn't have been able to have the friendships that I did when I was governor of Arkansas with a number of people, and even people I appointed to commissions and boards and agencies who were Muslim.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't have done it if I thought they were all into murderous mayhem. I can't tell you how refreshing it is, though, to hear you clearly say that what is often done in the name of Islam is the antithesis of Islam.
Right.
Because sometimes I hear people from CARE, the Council of,
American Islamic Relations.
Yeah, and they're not so clear. And they don't have the, I think, the convictions with clarity as you do, Harris, and I'm delighted to hear you say these things, because I know as a Christian it would humiliate and embarrass me if people went out and said, in the name of Jesus, I'm going to, murder you.
Right. Because
that's not what I would think my faith is all about. It isn't.
And what you'll find within the Ahmadiyya Muslim community is that this is a message that's not just me. This is not just Harris Safar. This is something that unites all of us across the 200 countries that we're in around the world. Because we're united by this one central leader, this Khalifa who resides in the United Kingdom, who brings us all together to unite us, to remind us what not only the founder of our religion said, but the founder of our community, who we accept as that second coming of that Messiah, that rightly guided one who would reform Muslims because of their behavior. That this is something you'll see in the over 200 nations that we're in, that we are law-abiding citizens and we try to do good works. Here in the United States, the Muslims for Life initiative we have, for 2 years, we've now collected over almost 23,000 bags of blood, which saved 69,000 American lives. So we're shedding blood. We're taking blood to save lives, not to take lives.
I think that is, an incredibly commendable endeavor, and I want to say thank you. Thank you for coming. Love to have you back regularly. I want to encourage our listeners to go to your website, MuslimsForPeace.org, and it is refreshing to talk to you. I appreciate your being here very much, Harris. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much, Governor.
Harris Afar, nice to talk to him. We'll talk to you at 855-840-4825.